Welcome to today's 5 Good Minutes on the 10 Commandments. Today we'll be considering the 6th commandment with Jonathan Thiede.
Welcome to 5 Good Minutes, where this week we are talking about the 6th commandment on the prohibition against murder. It's common in sports and in all competition when the moment gets heated for players to lash out at one another. I know my time playing sports, there were often times where you were tempted to take your anger out on someone else. You often hear someone calling another person names, implying that they're stupid for messing up a play. I think this is often common in football, where a receiver can run the wrong route or the quarterback can make the wrong read. And even as fans, we can lash out in anger at the team that we're watching. But the point is this, that in our anger, we bring other people down. That because of the effects of sin, we take competition far too seriously. And in our anger, we belittle others and make them feel badly. We're going to talk about that today as we dive into this issue of murder, which is ultimately an issue of the heart. Today's scripture is Matthew 5, verses 21 through 22, as we continue thinking about murder. Jesus says in this passage, "You have heard that it was said to the people long ago, 'You shall not murder, and anyone who murders will be subject to judgment.' But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or sister will be subject to judgment. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, 'Raka,' is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, 'You fool,' will be in danger of the fire of hell." This is from Jesus' famous message, the Sermon on the Mount, where he's talking about the law. And it's fitting that as we talk about the 10 Commandments, we would look to what Jesus says as he interprets the Mosaic law. We see in the 10 Commandments, the 6th commandment, that we shall not murder. And so Jesus is interpreting this in light of his far enlightened teaching. And we see a couple things about murder and a couple things about anger. The first is that murder is ultimately a heart issue. When Jesus says not to murder, he does not say, hey, just try really hard. Just double down your efforts to not murder. No, he looks to the heart, and he shows us that murder is ultimately a heart issue, and that murder is ultimately an anger issue. He says that anyone that murders is ultimately someone who is angry with their brother or sister, and they will be both subject to judgment. Murder is a heart issue. The second thing we see is that murder devalues human life. This is what I see when I see this second verse. Again, anyone who says to a brother or sister, "Raka," is answerable to the court, and anyone who says, "You fool," will be in danger of the fire of hell. Just in the same way that when playing sports, we can belittle people intentionally. We do this when we are angry. When we're angry, we make someone small in our hearts. We think to them as something less than human, and thus murder is justified in our hearts. People who murder no longer see their opponents as human, and so they feel a license to take their life away from them. They see themselves as far more important and far more deserving of life. Murder devalues human life. And the third thing we see from here is that though murder comes from anger, murder and anger are judged differently. It's important to see that though murder and anger are both, quote, subject to judgment, as Jesus says, they're judged very differently, at least in our culture. I don't want anyone walking away from this thinking that if they're angry with someone, they're going to go to jail, or if they murder someone, they're able to just sort of confess it and let it go. No, they are judged differently, both in God's law and in our law today in the United States. Though murder comes from anger, murder and anger are different. But what's the takeaway? How can we apply this? Well, we can apply this by being careful not to devalue other people in our minds. That there will come situations where we will become angry. But when we are tempted to be angry with someone, we need to bring the offense to them, if possible, and always to God. Instead of devaluing someone in our minds, we need to remember that they are an image bearer of God.
Thanks for joining us. Be sure to check out all our content and podcasts on Orchard Hill Plus. You can find that and so much more on our website or the Orchard Hill app.